Hey, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it, and it's great to see everybody. So, I am going to be talking to AlTonya Washington. I have met her at a couple of Romance Slam Jam RT book lovers conventions, and I also interviewed her back a couple of years ago when I was doing the Readers Entertainment Radio show. And so I just want to say a very big warm welcome for AlTonya. I'm going to just introduce her and then we will let her take the mic. AlTonya Washington has been a romance novelist for over 15 years. She's traditionally published independently also, and she is also scholarly published. She is a winner of the Romance Slam Jam Emma Award and a two-time winner of the Romantic Times Magazine's Reviewer's Choice Award. And she also, in 2019, won the Reader's Warrior's Choice Award, the Leslie Estelle Banks Trailblazer Award. She's a book nut, a film buff, a music junkie, almost anything from the early 2000s or before, and she enjoys writing in an array of genres. T. Onyx is her pseudonym for erotica, Allie Fleming for interracial romantic suspense, and in addition to that, Temple Carver for mainstream romantic suspense. She's best known for her longest running Ramsey Tesano multicultural romantic suspense series. And she also will be, she's just recently released a book, The Tesano Elders. And in addition to that, her best known job is a mom, and she is also a reference librarian. So, good morning, AlTonya. Great to see you.
Good morning, Lisa. Thank you for having me. Thank you all for having me. This is really great. Thank you.
So, let's discuss your latest novel, Favored, which is a romantic suspense. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Favored is actually part of my Sleeping Giant series that I published through. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Favored is actually part of my Sleeping Giant series that I published through Allie Fleming, which is my interracial romantic suspense pseudonym, pen name, whatever you want to call it. And the final, well, the last book in that part of the series will be coming out in December. So I'm really excited about that. That series just kind of came out of nowhere, sort of. I was at the time I decided to write it, kind of going through a lot of things like kind of like financial stuff that we all go through every now and again. And it was at a point where when I'm frustrated, I pour frustrations into the work. Writing, I've said that many times, writing has saved me many times, saved my just therapy. It's just my own personal kind of therapy. And so I was thinking one day about, what are the links that a woman might go to if her back is against the wall financially. And this is where that whole series kind of came out of. Four young women who made a tremendously bad decision when they were young, and now it's 6 years later, and issues from that decision are coming back to haunt them. And so each story basically is a standalone. It's a standalone series of 4 books. And each story kind of takes place where you get a different perspective of each person's, how they've dealt with what has happened. And so just focusing on how the same situation can affect people differently has made writing this series so enjoyable, so much so that I'm looking forward to maybe starting off with a different group of sleeping giants. So I'm not sure yet, but I am introducing a few new characters in the last book, very subtly. But yeah, it's been a tremendous ride, and I have really just enjoyed. I started writing interracial. I guess I dipped my toe into that when I was doing the Tesanos, and it just kind of went from there. And I said, well, let me just take this a bit further and see what I can do with it. And so out of that has come Sleeping Giants. And that's one of the things that I do enjoy, is just writing in so many different genres. That's what I enjoy about indie publishing, is that I have the freedom to just test my skills in a lot of different places.
Well, what is one thing that you gravitate toward, or you find that you really enjoy about writing romantic suspense?
I like the way that I'm creating flawed characters. And in romantic suspense, I enjoy that those flawed characters can come in the tone of the secondaries, or in the main characters. When writing traditionally, there have been times when I've come up against a situation where I couldn't make a certain character as flawed as I wanted to, and I kind of had to tone down. And that could have just been, based on the time that I wrote, or maybe the company that I was writing for, what have you. But in writing romantic suspense as an indie author, I don't have to feel that I'm constricted in what I write. I love showcasing those flaws and then showing how those characters work through them. And I've said this many times, that I put my characters through a lot. I give them a lot of hurdles that they have to jump through, so much so that you're like, well, how in the world, how are they ever going, figure this out? And I just love that. I love the challenge that it presents to me, because that's a motivator for me. So romantic suspense kind of allows me to pull all that in.
Nice. So, can you tell readers a little bit about how you kind of began and how you transitioned from being a reference librarian and loving books to actually going, you know what, I'm going to write a book?
Well, I kind of, writing romance and being a librarian kind of have gone hand in hand with me since the beginning. When I got my first writing, my first book contract, I'll say, it was the week that I got my first job at the library, at the public library. So it's like these two things have just kind of always been. So I kind of have two passions. It wasn't that I kind of transitioned from one to the other. I actually started writing before I ever knew I wanted to be a librarian. So, and that came out of nowhere too. I've always been a romance junkie, always a romance nut. I love to read. I mean, I read everything. If you follow me on Goodreads, you'll see my tastes just span tons of genres. And when I discovered romance when I was like 13, my mom was very concerned, but I told her, and you got to understand, this is the 80s. So I'm talking about, like, overbearing heroes. I mean, it wasn't all that politically, none of that. So I told her that it helped with my vocabulary, and her being a teacher, she was like, oh, okay. And she was okay with it. But when I discovered romance, it was just amazing. When I graduated college, I graduated from Winston-Salem State University, which is a HBCU, and actually that's where I work now. So it's like I've got the best of both worlds, just working for the place that kind of got me started. And I remember I wanted to write romance, but because I wasn't seeing anybody that looked like me. And after coming out of an HBCU, it's like you're young and you're starting to question things around you that you never questioned before. And that was one of the things, was that while I'm reading all these books and I'm loving them, but I'm not seeing any African American characters.
Right.
And you got to understand, I lived in North Carolina, South Carolina, North Carolina. None of that was on the shelves back then. I mean, it was being written, but none of that was on the shelves. I have writing friends now that go on and on about the great authors that they grew up with reading, and I don't have that, because that was not available to me. Mm-hmm. So I took my love of mainstream romance and I put those African American characters in some of those situations that I was reading about in mainstream romance, because I was like, well, hey, we go through this stuff too. I mean, these things aren't just sectioned off to one particular group. So all of that just kind of mixed together and combined to just grow this love that I have of creating these characters and these situations, and just seeing how far I can take it. So So yeah, it was just always been a love that I've had, and just wanting to write, and with no real expectation ever of being published. I mean, I would write my books and I would invite friends over to read them. And that was it. That was enough for me, because I would get instant feedback, that instant gratification. Yeah, I love this. Oh, you need to change this. Or why did he do that? And they're telling you, girl, you can get this published. Why don't you go ahead and start publishing? And your head is like swollen, and you think, oh yeah, I'm doing this. So you put it out there, and rejection, rejection, rejection. And it's like but in the process of that, you're building this thick skin. And find that, well, I think I can do this. I really do think I can get this book out here. My friends are loving it. I'm loving it. I'm thinking I'm doing a good job. Hey, I'm going to keep trying to get other people to find out about me and to read my work. So it's like, you just never stop. You just never stop. And I tell people that a lot, is you're going to find that rejection is constant, but you have got to, if it's in your heart, you got to know why you're doing it. Because if you're doing it because you think you're going to make the New York Times bestseller list,
Yeah.
Get it. That you're going to quickly dwindle out. Your joy and your love for why you're writing is going to quickly dwindle out if that's why you're writing. So for me, it's just creating that story. The best part about it for me is once I got the book done and I can sit back and read it. I mean, I can relax. I'm not at the point where I'm, tearing my hair out about what are these people going to do next. I'm just relaxing with my story. So, I don't know. And I guess I'm somewhat of a control nut. So, I get to write the story and decide what I want them to do and what I want them to say. And it's just great. I just love it. I just love it.
Now, speaking of your novels, you have one you just put out, Book of Scandal, the Tesano Elders. Can you tell us a little bit about where the Ramseys and the Tesanos first began, and what's one thing you love about writing that series?
Okay, so that began out of a situation that I had with my really great editor that actually helped me get my first Romantic Times Award. But the character, the hero in that story, she had constant problems with him. He was too this, he was too that, he was too overbearing. It was just, So I said, I'm going to write the perfect guy. I'm going to write the perfect hero that she is going to love him. She is not going to have any issues with him, but I knew he had to have an edge. For him to be exciting for me to write about, he had to have an edge. So out of that decision came Quest Ramsey, and he was the first hero for the Ramsey series. And so out of that, I said, well, I know I want to write a series. I had been to lots of slam jams, probably a couple before I actually became a writer. And I would see all these people, talking to Rochelle Allers, talking to Brenda Jackson about her series and, what's next. And I said, well, gosh, these series must be something. So one, again, I had never read one, didn't have anything to go on. So I just started kind of piecing together things that I wanted to possibly throw in there, and that I knew I wanted it to be about a family. Like I said, I love TV, movies, stuff that follows family sagas, Dallas Dynasty, Knots Landing, all those old 80s shows, great, huge fan. And so I started just conjuring up the kinds of drama that could take place in those families. And out of that came my Ramsey series, which transitioned over into the Tesano. So it was kind of like a spinoff of the Ramseys. With the Ramseys, the people who were the contemporary characters, the younger characters, they were dealing with situations that took place because of the older people in their family. And so I had readers asking me about those older people. And so out of that came the elders, the Ramsey elders. So once I did the Tesanos, same thing happened. I had readers asking me, what about the older people? What did they do? How did they start all this drama going on? Out of that came the Tesano elders. And so I've got two of those stories that kind of go back to the beginning and show you how all the drama got started. So roller coaster ride.
Awesome. Well, AlTonya, it's amazing how time flies. Can you let readers know how to get in touch with you and how to find you online?
Yep. So you can find me anywhere. Put in AlTonya. There's not many people with a crazy name like that. So if you put me in, you're going to find me. I'm on Goodreads. Twitter at Ramsey Girl, Ramsey's Girl. That's me. On Instagram at Novel Alley. So yeah, my website, you can find all of that. alsreaders.weebly.com is my main website now. And also for Allie Fleming, alliefleming.weebly.com. So you can find me anywhere.
And really quick, tell us what's next for you.
Favorite is next, the last book in the Sleeping Giant series. And then after that, I've got another book coming out in the Ramsey Tesano series, and that is A Lover's Redemption. For those of you who are following the series, that is Rogue Tesano's book. So I hope to get that out early next year. Haven't decided on the exact date yet. Look forward to that.
And I just noticed someone in the chat wrote, had a question about any tips for overcoming the fear of success.
Overcoming the fear of success. Wow. No tips. I don't think I have a fear of success. I'm so excited to be successful, but I think you have to just pace yourself, because once you start getting known, you can find that you're drained and you're being pulled in so many different directions. So I would say pace yourself. With anything, pace yourself.
That is awesome. Well, I'll tell you, I'm so excited to have been able to sit down with you and chat. You write romantic suspense. I write romantic suspense, so you know I'm always happy to sidle up and talk to you about that. And you're actually a fellow North Carolinian. Yay. So yes. We have to represent.
Are you getting rain where you are today? Because we are.
Well, actually, I'm in Maryland. I've been here for about a month. My mom is sick, so I've kind of been here, kind of hanging at my sister's house. But I am looking forward to getting back to Raleigh soon. And I know you're about 2 hours from me, aren't you?
Yeah, we're not so far, so we need to hook up one day, get some talking in person. Well, maybe just talking right now. For God.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I hope you stick around the entire weekend. Pop in and out as often as you want. We would love to chat with you and see you.
Definitely. Thank you. All right.
Okay, well, we got a little bit of time left, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. My name is Lisa Dodson, formerly Lisa Watson. So if you're wondering, hey, how come your books say Lisa Watson and you're Lisa Dodson? The short version is they'll eventually all be Lisa Dodson. So I'm a national best-selling author, Amazon #1 best-selling author. I've written over 16 novels in the contemporary romance, multicultural romance, romantic suspense, sweet romance, clean romance reads. And in addition, I'm a hybrid author as well. And for those that aren't familiar with what a hybrid author is, that is basically an author that is both been traditionally published and also has self-published. So I've published for houses like Harlequin and Kensington, as well as doing the indie novels. And what I love most about writing is the characters that I come up with. I love having characters that are joined together by family, by love, by respect, and also ones that readers can actually root for. And that brings me to King of Hyde Park. That's my latest novel for Kings of the Castle. That is book 8 in the Kings of the Castle series. And it centers on Alejandro Dro Reyes. And actually, he got his name Dro because of Nalena Kai. She said, hey, you know what? I like Dro. Alejandro is too long. And I love Alejandro. I could say Alejandro all day, every day. And I actually had to tamp down the amount of times I used Alejandro in the book. But Dro is a fan favorite, and he is Mexican, and he is a fixer. So he owns a crisis management company. And so he is the guy that can get any and everything you need in the Kings of the Castle series. So I just wanted to kind of read a little excerpt from King of Hyde Park. It's Saturday night. You're really going to spend it cuddled up with a Sherpa blanket, binge watching TV shows with a bowl of cereal? For your information, I don't have cereal yet, she snickered. Lola was sitting on the couch in a pair of pajama pants and a long sleeve top. She'd returned from the gym an hour prior, and after a shower and a change of clothes, hadn't moved from her spot. Her mom had called, and when she found out her daughter was home alone, she began rolling down the list of eligible bachelors she knew in Chicago. You don't know them, Mom. True, but Ethel told me at our last spades game that her nephew was newly single. He's not even a mile from your place, and he's a stock trader. Unable to help herself, Lola asked, That's only one. Where's the rest? Honey, I wasn't about to rattle them off if you weren't interested, her mom reasoned. That made Lola smile. Her mother knew her well. Hello, are you still here? Here? Michelle complained. Yes, sorry, what were you talking about? How you been spending your raggedy weekends lately? Michelle, don't act like you aren't over there doing the same thing. That's lame, Michelle teased, and I have a date. You know, I don't think going out with your brother and sister-in-law counts as a date. It does when they're bringing Dr. Davis along. Lola sat up. Who's Dr. Davis? Exactly, Michelle squealed with delight. He works at the hospital with my brother. I hear he's tall, good looking, and if his bedside manner is as sexy as his voice, girl, I'm about to offer him up for prayer at church on Sunday because I might have something to repent from Saturday. Laughing, she got comfortable while her friend recounted her phone calls with the good doctor. When the doorbell rang, she got up off the couch while continuing her phone call. Who's that? Takeout delivery? No, I haven't even ordered yet, thank you. She gazed out of the peephole and almost dropped her phone. Michelle, I have to call you back. Not till you'll tell me who's at the door. Were you expecting anyone? Do I need to come over there with my taser? No, I'm not. No, you don't. And I'll call you later. Wait, Lola. It's fine. I'll call you back. She ended the call before opening the door to find Alejandro on the other side. They both stood on opposite sides, transfixed. Hi. Hi, she finally managed to say. After the initial shock of seeing him, her gaze traveled past his eyes. She gasped, Dro, what happened? Were you in a car accident? My God, you look horrible. It wasn't an accident, he replied, his voice holding a weariness she had never heard from him before. Someone tried to shoot me, probably just a graze. It's not a big deal, I'm fine. You most certainly are not fine, she determined, and I don't know where you come from, but not even in Chicago is a gunshot wound no big deal. Guiding him to the couch, she sat him down and helped him remove his jacket. The white shirt underneath was saturated with blood. This has to come off. Alejandro started to unbutton his shirt, but then stopped midway. Lola picked up where he left off. She threw both garments on the hardwood floor and tried to get a good look at his wound. We'll have to clean this up. I can't tell how bad it is. He rose. Lead the way. Dro trailed behind her through her bedroom and into the bathroom. He perched on the closed toilet seat while she rummaged in the cabinet for supplies. Running to get a clean washcloth, she returned with that and a towel. Lola washed her hands, then opened the first aid kit. She washed the wound, then wiped it carefully with alcohol. He winced. Sorry, I'm out of hydrogen peroxide. She kneeled on the floor in front of him to examine the wound. She had to make several attempts due to shaky hands. I don't think it needs stitches, but I'm no expert. Dro squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. You're doing fine. He glanced down and studied his arm, and it doesn't. Holding a square bandage in place while she wrapped the gauze around his arm, he observed it as Lola taped it down. Unable to help herself, her fingers trailed down his bruised jaw and cut lip. When he didn't stop her, she continued exploring the lines of his face. When Dro grabbed her fingers, she stilled. Did I go too far? Instead of lowering them, he raised her hand slightly to kiss the inside of her palm. Lola's legs almost buckled. Do you know what I thought about as that bullet went whizzing by my head? Mesmerized, she shook her head. My first thought was why I was stupid enough to die without asking you out on a date. Before she could say a word, Alejandro eased her onto his lap and wrapped her in his embrace. Lola wrapped her arms around his neck and held him tight. Her fingers moved through his disheveled hair. She was stunned. She had no idea he felt this way, or that she would feel as she did, like her world had just skidded to a halt, hearing him casually mention that he could have died. A bizarre mix of confusion, joy, fear, and elation coursed through her body. The combination made her feel heady and slightly nauseous. Dro pulled away to gently grasp her head in his hands to kiss her lips. A simple whisper of a kiss as Lola was careful not to injure his mouth in the process. Do you want Chinese? She stared back. Dro, you show up on my doorstep, shot up, ask me out for a date, kiss me, and now you're inquiring about dinner? Aren't you hungry? He asked. She stopped for a moment. Her skin grew clammy and saliva pooled in her mouth. I'm gonna throw up. With him sitting on the toilet, Lola hurled herself in the direction of the bathtub. She felt him pull her hair back while she emptied the contents of her stomach. Once the wave passed, she slumped down on the side of the tub and leaned her back against the cool porcelain. You're in shock, he confirmed. Give it a minute. He filled a small glass on her counter with water and handed it to her. Sip it slowly. Nodding, she did as he instructed. Her eyes drifted shut while she waited for the strange feelings to pass. She felt him take the empty cup from her hand. Better? Yes, she admitted. Thank you. Lola opened her eyes, observing him. Do you ever do anything half measure? No, I never have. Shaking her head, she accepted his help off the floor. And she cleaned up the supplies around the sink before taking him back into the living room. After locating takeout menu, she claimed the spot next to him and handed over the stack. I like the picture of your parents and you on the nightstand, he said as he scanned the men's Noodle House menu. You're gonna tell me in the split second that you were in my room, you noticed the family pic on my bed? Come on, she joked. No, nobody is that good. She asked for his selection and then placed the order. It'll be here in about 30 minutes, she said as she tucked her legs from under her and settled in next to him. Your room has golden yellow walls, he began. A white comforter on your queen-size bed with a sage throw at the foot of it. 6 pillows on the bed, 2 are the color of goldenrod, 2 sage green and 2 white. In addition to your family picture, you have 2 books. One of them is a Bible, a ceramic bowl, probably to hold your jewelry, a lamp, and 2 remotes. One for your television, the other for your DVD player. You have 5 canvas prints on your wall, all of them floral arrangements, a chase lounge with a white throw, a mug on the small rattan trunk, probably last night's tea, and your slippers, which you don't use often because you like walking around in your bare feet. She tucked her feet further under her. Okay, that's just plain creepy. It's my profession. It's imperative to remember even the most minute details. She absorbed that for a moment. You know everything there is to know about me, and I don't know even your middle name. It's Alejandro. My first name is Victor after my father. Siblings? 2 brothers, Esteban and Raul. My parents, Victor and Valentina, live in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. My family's in the real estate and architecture. Married, she threw at him? No. Last girlfriend? He smiled. More than 2 years ago. I don't have time to date. She started to say something, but he added, you're the exception. Lola's grin went supernova. She was bright enough to light up the entire room by herself. But we haven't been out on our first date yet. He picked up a lock of her hair and wove it around his index finger. We're having it as we speak. So, how's it going? Well, she answered truthfully. How long have you been in crisis management? All my life. It's a full-time job, Miss Samuels. When do you relax, go on vacation, enjoy yourself? I'm relaxing and enjoying myself right now. She playfully nudged his leg. Me too. This isn't exactly how I imagined my evening would have turned out. He gave her his full attention. But it's better than reruns? Now Lola knew how Jess felt. Her breath had even hitched in her throat to prove it. Yes, now that you've stopped bleeding, but I have just one question. Anything, he said, name it. How often do you get shot? So that's it for me. And as far as social media goes, you can find me at Facebook, Twitter, Lisa Y. Dodson. And other than that, I am so glad that you guys took the time to join me this morning. And I am going to be turning it over in a second to our next guest. Oh, somebody mentioned that King of Hyde Park was the bomb too. Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. And yes, I do love Dro. What can I say? I never get tired of looking at him. Hey, Sierra, how are you? Nice to see you.
You as well. Great reading.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions?
Actually, that's your time because
Okay,
we're over
cool.
to Sierra and she is going to bring on our next guest.
Awesome. All right. Well, good